Hello everybody. Welcome to our second session of the second chakra on our chakra series today. Today we are going to be looking at removing any blockages we have with our sacral chakra. In the last session, we very quickly talked about the location of the chakra, the mantra of the chakra, and its associations and elements and all of that. So today I think is going to be very expressive for most of us. That's the word I'm looking for. And that's the point. Today is supposed to be about you allowing yourself to move past your inhibitions and for you to be bold. Hence why I look like this today, right? So today, this chakra, the sacral chakra with the element of water, is all about being in a state of flow. It's all about being in this state of creating the next version of yourself and expressing that which you already are and experimenting with yourself, right? A lot of this is going to encompass kind of acknowledging our shadow and really going into our shadow, really owning our shadow, right? It talks about us expressing all of those things we are uncomfortable with, and society has told us we should not be expressing out loud and all of that, right? So because of that, today we are going to be concentrating on removing the voices that are inside your mind, that are living in your head rent-free, that are stopping you from expressing yourself to your fullest potential. Okay, we all have those. If you've been through the last session, you know what I'm talking about. So if not, go back to the last video before moving on with this one so you have a good understanding of what it is that we're talking about. Okay, now, here's the thing. This chakra is blocked by guilt. Okay, and guilt is not a sensation that is innate to us. Guilt is something that we learn. Guilt is something that our culture and our society imprints onto us. And so it's really important that as we do this, we don't self-induce the guilt. So the point of the exploration of this chakra actually isn't to sit there and judge yourself. Especially what we're doing today. It is really, really important that you come to this from a place of observation. I'm just going to watch what there is. That's it. I'm not going to make any judgments. I'm not going to say whether something should or shouldn't be here. I'm not going to reprimand myself about what does or does not show up. The point of today is not to self-induce a state of guilt and shame, right? That's what blocks the energy of this chakra. The built-in judgment, the built-in guilt that we've already been feeling from the society around us. That's what limits our self-expression. So as we go into this process today and as we go into the observation of this chakra, what we want to bring is open-minded curiosity. You just want to be present and you want to be childlike in your curiosity. You want to give yourself this freedom to really feel and sense what this chakra is all about, what this feeling of expression is all about, of all of those things that you have wanted to express and didn't allow yourself to. Okay? We just want to be in observation of that. We don't want to go into guilting and shaming and wagging our finger at ourselves at why didn't you do this, why didn't you do that, why didn't you have the presence of mind, why didn't you have the courage, it's not about judging yourself. It's not about the how could yous and how dare yous and how dare you nots. It's about actually acknowledging the part of you that says, hey, I wanted a chance to be, but I didn't get one. And just allowing that to be the center stage, and allowing that to be the main message that we take away. Hey, there's a part of you that never got to be, that lives in your imagination, that lives in your mind, but it never got to fully express itself. Just be in the presence of that. Just listen to that voice today. Because, hey, I could have been. I still can. I'm still here. Okay? So I want to give you a moment between you and that voice. And so the meditation today is going to be really, really quick. I'm not going to go through the whole meditation we did with the root chakra. That's a good one to come back to, and it's a good one to kind of duplicate if you want to go into the sacral chakra with the same process. But what I want to do today is I just want to take us quickly into the root chakra. So we're not going to take as much. We're just going to take a few breaths to calm ourselves and center ourselves, and that's it. And then we're going to go into the elevator and go into the chakra itself. Again, when we go there, all I want you to do is be present and observe. If nothing comes up, it's totally okay. If a mishmash of a million things comes up, it's totally okay. But all I want you to do is be curious and be open-minded in this process. That's it. Okay? So, when you're ready, if you're seated on a chair like I am, make sure your feet are flat on the ground. Okay? Put your hands in a receptive mudra, either left hand on the right, thumbs together, thumbs coming together just below the belly button. This is Diana, and this is a good mudra for today, because especially for women, it encapsulates our womb, and that's where our creativity, that's where our waters flow from, figuratively and literally, right? That's where our creative power comes from. So this is a good one for women, or if you want to encourage the feminine aspect. Okay, so, or just hands up in a receptive mudra on your lap. Make sure you drop your shoulders, don't wear them for earrings. Okay, tuck your chin a little bit to make sure your spine is actually straight. Release your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Wherever you're ready, close your eyes. And from here, wherever you are with your breath, let's just exhale. Now let's take a deep breath in and send your breath all the way down your spine. And as you exhale, release any tension you feel in your body. One more time, deep breath in, send it all the way down your spine. And as you exhale, release and relax more into the depths of your own body. Now with your next deep breath in, see if you can send your awareness with your breath all the way down to the end of your spine. And as you exhale, find yourself standing as a miniature at the crown of your head. And let's slowly descend into our body with an elevator that starts at the crown of your head. Slowly let's descend past the eyes and the nose. As you enter the throat, the deeper you go, the darker it gets behind your eyes. Let's go past the clavicles the heart. We go past the diaphragm and the stomach. As we go past the intestines, we slowly slow down and stop just about an inch or so below the belly button. The door opens, you take a couple of steps into the hallway, and now you're standing at the doorway to your sacral chakra. I want you to notice the size and the shape of this door. I want you to notice what it's made out of. I want you to notice what color it is. Now bring your awareness to the door handle and if there are any locks on this door. If there are, you are the only one with the key or keys as the case may be. When you're ready, take a deep breath in, unlock the door if necessary, and as you exhale, open the door, step in and close the door behind you. You are now standing in your sacral chakra. This is the space of great creativity, energy, and passion. This is the chakra in which anything is possible and your imagination runs wild. This is your internal Narnia. This is a world of magic and fairy tales and fairy dust. Anything you want is possible in this space. I want you to take a look around this room. What do you see? Who is here with you? I want you to look around the room and notice different expressions of you that have been throughout time. Notice different versions of yourself in different states of creative process. Who do you see? What are you doing? And how does that feel? I want you to notice how much joy there is in this space, how much excitement, how much courage and curiosity. You have a feeling of being a kid in a candy store, like being a child again, where with with your imagination, anything is possible. Now, as you imagine this, I want you to pay attention to the little voice that may have been quiet or may have been very loud and said, hey, you're not a child anymore. It's not all possible anymore. It never was. I want you to focus on that voice. I want you to follow it and see where it lives in this space. The voice that taught you to be small, to be ashamed, to doubt your expression, to seek validation. The voice that taught you to conform. Where is that voice? Whose voice is it? It's certainly not yours. Is it a parent? A teacher? A religious authority? Is it a friend? Is it a partner? Is it an ex? Let all those voices that make your joy heavy show themselves now. All the little voices and instances that taught you to limit yourself in your expression, let them bubble up. In this moment and in every moment, you are safe. No harm can come to you from their expression of their voices. Now, as you become aware of their voices, I want you to check back in with your body. Notice the built-up sensations in your own body. Where is it building up? Is it heaviness in your chest? Is it butterflies in your stomach? Is it heaviness between your shoulders? Where is it building up in your body to allow these critical voices to voice themselves in your mind? Observe both of them. In this moment, recognize that both of these two, the sensations in your body and the limiting voices in your mind, are there just to protect you. Even though sometimes it doesn't seem like it, they came here from a place of love, and they act as a loving protector. And in order for you to experience something different without their limitation, we need to acknowledge their role as a protector and release them from that obligation. And so let the release that is about to happen today be that release. We release these loving voices who criticize us so beautifully. We release them from loving us by limiting our self-expression so that we may not get hurt. We recognize that should things go badly, on the other side of every pain is growth. And ultimately, we want growth through self-expression. So bring all of that intention to your dominant hand. Attach to it all the thoughts and the voices and the faces you want to release in this moment. And also attach to it the physical sensation in your body. All of that is weighted and connected to your dominant hand and the energy you're about to release. Holding on to that awareness and the awareness that your sacral chakra is always here anytime you need to recharge. Let's turn back to the door that leads back into the hallway. Before you exit, make sure you take a deep breath in. Center yourself, and as you exhale, open the door, step out, and close the door behind you. If you found this door locked, make sure you lock the door behind you. Now, holding on to everything you're about to release and knowing that at the core, you're absolutely limitless. Let's step into the elevator. And let's start our slow descent back up into the body. As we slowly come past the intestines and the stomach, we slowly go past the diaphragm and the heart. We slowly enter the throat. And as you pass the chin and come to the face, as you go higher, there's more light behind your eyes. Let's go past the mouth. Wiggle your toes at the nose. Wiggle your fingers at your eyes. And as you begin to arrive at the crown, bring your awareness back to your physical body. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay, so we all know what we're about to release. It is not a bad idea for you to actually have a little piece of paper to the side of you where you get to write down, at least in terms of keywords, some of the things that you're releasing today. Okay? If you're going to do that exercise, then the number we want to hit is 20. Once you've had about 20 words in about 2 minutes, there has been enough association made. Okay? But think of all the things that you want to release today. And we're putting all of that into our dominant hand, okay, into the hand you're about to do the release with. So, because it's fresh, I don't want you to lose it. I want you to really concentrate on bringing everything top of mind, the thoughts and the sensations in the body. And I really want you to feel that connected to your dominant hand. Make sure your feet are planted firmly on the ground. You want to feel grounded in this process. I want you to take a deep breath in, and then I want you to let all of that come out on your dominant hand. Okay? Ready? Deep breath in. And keep going until you feel like it's been released. Now, a lot of times I like to do this with an audible release, meaning I will scream. I don't like to do this with you guys here because I don't have the ability to mute myself and I don't want to scream in all of your ears. But if you are alone by yourself, then my suggestion is actually do that. Have a audible release. If at the very least have a deep exhale, but let it out. Okay? So, in the realm of probabilities and possibilities, which is this blank page, this is our expression of our frustration with our limitations, with all of those voices we just heard inside. Because in that meditation, one of the things we were able to do is we were able to connect with this complete state of joy, this thing that we can create, right? This state of nirvana we can be in, where everything we want is possible. And then immediately, as soon as you go into that place, the awareness comes of all of the people and places and reasons and occurrences in your life that have taught you, no, that's not the case. So we're going to let all of that go. And by doing that, the first thing we need to do is we need to bring peace to that. First, we get to make peace with that with ourselves. We get to make peace with ourselves. You get to let go. You get to get comfortable with the idea that, hey, this happened. These limitations happened. These things that were outside of your power happened. And that's okay. We don't want to change them. We don't want to blame anybody for them. It's not about the negativity. It's just about being present with what has happened and saying and releasing the negative weight of that. I'm not saying love it. I'm not saying bring positivity to it. Just I let it go. Okay, and that's the process we do when we create these connections. First, we bring grace to ourselves. First, we bring forgiveness to ourselves. Okay? So, for a few minutes, I want to leave you with your thoughts, with the people you brought in, with the voices you brought in, and just you making peace with them. Again, in this process, one of the things we like to do is we like to start arguing with those voices. But you did this, and but you said that, and see how that worked, and see how that limited. And if you think that's therapeutic, go ahead, get it out. Fight with them here and now with this process as your body learns to be at peace and calm. When you are in a safe space, if you find that that conversation is necessary, then by all means, go ahead and have that argument in your mind. But remain open, remain here. The main focus of these kinds of exercises is to slowly actually not need to have that argument and to just be in a state of surrender. It is what it is, or it was what it was, and that's okay. Most of us in the world grow up in religious cultures. I don't care where in the world you're from. Most of us grow up with religion. It really doesn't matter which one, Abrahamic or not. But the Abrahamic ones are the most popular ones. And these religions seek to control most of all our sexual expression. A lot of us come from or live in conservative communities or countries where the most basic form of self-expression, which is sexual expression, well, actually the most basic ways of expressing ourselves have become sexualized. Right? It's even something as simple as what we wear on a daily basis has become sexualized. We can't have self-expression without sexual expression these days in our societies. And yet that is looked so unfavorably upon, right? Especially as women. I mean, not to say that men don't have guilt associated with sex, but especially as women, our sexual expression has been controlled and has been vilified. So that's one of those things that we need to become aware of. We need to be in observation of, and then let it go so that we can express ourselves the way that we choose and we want. Where is my... I don't want to take a tissue, but that's fine. I don't want to transfer ink all over my page and onto my hands, so tissue it is. So as I round my expression, I need to forgive the part of myself that has started judging me internally based on all of the things that I was taught to judge myself as. Because it was the things that society or my parents or my teachers judged me for. The way I allow myself to dress or not dress, the way that I allow myself to appear in public, the way that I allow myself to laugh or not laugh out loud, especially as a woman, the way that I do or don't allow myself to be seen in public, the way that I have in the past judged or still do judge women that are very, very comfortable with their sexuality and their sensuality. The fact that as a society we still judge these women. We live in a society where victim shaming is a thing for victims of sexual assault. We're talking about a world where there is vocabulary like high value men and low body count women. This is in our everyday vocabulary today in 2024. We're still living in a society that thinks sexual expression for men is promiscuity. And lack of sexual expression in women is piety. And it pins us against each other. Pins humanity against each other in one of the most basic things, functions of our species. I mean, sexual expression is such a natural part of any living creature. We rejoice at watching the mating rituals and calls of other species. But when it comes to our own species, no. It needs to become ridden with guilt and controlled. Why? Because it's incredibly powerful. There's a great amount of self-confidence that goes into sexual expression, proper sexual expression, not promiscuity. To be comfortable in your own body, which is what we talked about last week with the root chakra. To be comfortable enough in your own being that the judgment of others does not perturb you. You believe in you. You love yourself just the way you are, just the way you were meant to be, just the way that the divine created you. We find people who behave like that sexually attractive. People who are comfortable in their skin, sometimes even if they're not trying to flirt, we find them flirtatious. Because they're comfortable with who they are, because they're comfortable expressing who they are. And a lot of the time we judge these people for it. And we certainly don't allow ourselves to do that. I think one of the greatest observations you can make with you about your sacral chakra and how open or how activated it is how much you judge other people. How often do you tell people that what they're doing in their life is wrong? How comfortable are you with people living lives you don't understand? Because the more you allow for others to express themselves the way they are, even if you disagree with it, the more then you allow yourself internally to be creative and to be free. We are usually more lenient with other people than we are with ourselves. We give them more grace than we give ourselves. But we definitely don't give grace to other people when we don't give grace to ourselves. When you don't allow yourself to do something, to push the envelopes of yourself past a certain limit, dependent, that was predetermined for you by your morality or your religion or your social standards, whatever it may be. When you don't allow yourself to go there, you judge other people for going there. In order for you to recognize how activated your sacral chakra is, one of the things you need to recognize is how much guilt you are living with and how much guilt you're inducing in other people. How often do you use shame? If you are shaming other people, just imagine how much you're shaming yourself. The more judgmental of other people you are, the more you're shooting all over yourself. If you're telling people, other people, how they should be living, can you imagine the shoulds that you have for yourself? You don't even allow room for creativity. You then become somebody who is a perfectionist and who seeks to control their external environment in order to have a positive internal sensation or experience. Do you want to find out how rigid your super ego was? Do you want to find out how judgmental your super ego was? The environment that you grew up with and internalized as your morality? Then look at how much you judge other people. Look at how uncomfortable, how quickly you get uncomfortable with people who don't express the way you do, who are outside of societal norms. How do those people make you feel? Do you feel threatened by them? Then you grew up in a very, very strict superego. Once you become aware of that, you can release that. Once you become aware of the role shame and guilt has played in keeping you small, in keeping you controlled, in keeping you from expressing yourself wholly and fully, the less likely you are to be willing to use it as a tool with other people. Because what happens is that you won't want to perpetuate the energy that hurt you, that made you feel small, that made you feel insignificant. So exploring in this moment how you judge yourself and other people and how you should all over yourself is going to be very helpful. Because I promise you, the voice inside of your head that utters the sentence you should or you should have is not yours. Because the voice inside of you, the observer inside of you, the person that has always been there, the person who knows the whole story where you're concerned, knows that if you could have, you would have. The voice inside of your head that is shoulding all over you is not your voice. Recognizing whose voice it is will allow you to put it in context and to put it in its place when you are reacting to a situation or where you are making a decision moving forward. Now, once you recognize whose voice it is inside your head, it is then really, really, really important for you to love them. Not to get angry at it, not to yell at it or indict it and blame it for all of the ways that you were limited in your life. Because as soon as you do that, it digs its heels in and it becomes stronger. The minute that you try to get rid of it, deny it, find fault with it, the minute you try to do any of that, it actually digs its heels in and becomes louder in the back of your mind and in your subconscious mind. And it will insist on being in control of you more. Because that part of you is actually there, has been put there with the intention to protect you by people who meant to protect you, and therefore has been given the job of protecting you. And if you wanted to stop influencing your life the way it has, then what you need to do is appreciate it for how it has thus far protected you, and letting it know it no longer needs to do that. You are going to be able to keep yourself safe from here on out. You know, the greatest suppressors of women in our societies, especially in conservative societies, is not men. It's actually other women. And they do it out of love. Women in restricted societies learn that they need to work with their suppressor. They don't have the power. They are usually, especially physically, and a lot of times economically, overpowered. And so what do? You attach yourself to the power in order to keep yourself protected. In a patriarchy, the power has been men. And so women teach their daughters from a very young age, and especially in conservative families, to do as they are expected by men, by patriarchy. Dress modestly, don't behave too provocatively. Watch yourself, watch your virtue. If you are overt in your self-expression, it can then be sexualized by men, and that can put you in harm's way. And if any harms comes to you at that point, in a lot of cultures to this day, the girl is to blame. And I'm not just talking about Middle Eastern cultures, I'm even talking about the culture of countries like Canada. Because a lot of victims of sexual assault don't report the crime, and when they do, they go through a grueling court process in which victim shaming and victim blaming is part of the mandate of the defense attorney. They have to discredit this woman. And so that becomes acceptable. It becomes acceptable practice elsewhere as well. So, women teach other women, teach the women that they care about, how to assimilate into the roles that keep them contained, that keep them victimized, that keep them less than. They're doing it out of a place of love. They're not doing it because they enjoy you being controlled. They do it out of the fear of what would happen to you if you didn't conform. And so we uphold the patriarchy and the conformity. Whereas the real loving thing for most women would be to raise revolutionary daughters, to tell them not to care, to tell them dare to be themselves no matter what society said. But there are parts of the world in which if you were to do that, your family, your father, your brother would have the right to end your life for bringing dishonor to your family name. In 2024, in this day and age, this is the reality for so many people. And this is the oldest trick in the book. Shunning people for doing things that are socially unacceptable is a very, very, very old practice. Also, let's not forget that the house where your trauma is housed, where it's kept, is your root chakra. But where it expresses is your sacral chakra. So the traumas that you have endured in your life, and the traumas that you have faced and survived, live in the core of who you are. They have made a permanent imprint on the essence of who you are, of the essence of what makes you you, what makes you behave like you. Now, the where it is seen is in your self-expression, and your sacral chakra is the space of self-expression. It's the seat of self. It's the establishment of self. That's the name of the chakra. And so we bring our past pain into our self-expression. The way that we behave with other people around us in relational situations is informed by our past traumas. And this is the chakra of relationships. This is the way that we create relationships, not just romantic ones, friendships, work relationships, familial relationships. Any relationship we create comes from, the expression of that relationship comes from this chakra. And it is informed, it is fed by your root chakra. That which you really believe about yourself, the beliefs that you hold in the core of you, inform the way that you present yourself in the world. That's what this chakra is about. It's about your self-presentation. So whether or not you allow yourself to be bold in any of your expressions depends on whether or not you were given the courage and the space to be bold in the most formative years of your life. If you were allowed to be curious, if you were allowed to be different from the crowd, or if you were told from a very young age to assimilate and to act like other people. If you were told very early on in age that there was a right and wrong way to do things. You know, the more aristocratic your upbringing is, the more rigid it is, the more shame there is attached to it, because the more institutionalized it is. You are there to uphold a certain tradition, a certain culture. It is not about you as an individual. It is about that institution that is your family. So when you are to express the needs of an institution, the individual and self-expression goes out the window, because the only thing that matters is upholding tradition and doing things as they have been done for millennia, regardless of what you like or what you would prefer. And every single one of us belongs to an institution called a culture. Some cultures are more universal, some are more local. Depends, again, on where you were born and where you were raised, and how large the community around you was. But recognizing that all of these limiting beliefs that you now hold, that hold so much weight in your psyche, in your subconscious mind, come from a place, from a loving place. Recognizing that they come from a loving place allows you to release them. because as soon as you start fighting them, they become more powerful. Because the whole point is they have been fought to be put into that situation, into your space, into your subconscious to begin with. They are resistant to fighting. Right? They're resistant to being replaced. They dig their heels in. That is what they are there for. That is how they were created. So, if we want to change them, we need to disarm them. And the only way to disarm them is with love. It's by saying thank you. I know you mean well. I know you've meant to protect me from having certain experiences and experiencing certain types of pain in my life. I know the risks I take now by fully expressing myself. I got this. I'm ready for this. Nothing bad can happen to me if I were to fully express myself. In fact, when I do fully express myself, I'm going to find my community. I'm going to find the other people who think like me, who are like me, who act like me, and I can really feel like I belong. I can really find my real community. I may have been lucky enough to be born in it. Many of us are not. But you won't find your whale pod until you start singing your frequency and putting it out there. Society as a whole may not like it when you express yourself as an individual, because it is not concerned with you being an individual. The only thing society is concerned with is upholding its own norms and its own culture. It's like it is using you as a molecule of DNA to push itself forward, to perpetuate its own existence. Society and culture isn't concerned about you. It is only concerned about your assimilation. So a little bit of pushback is to be expected from society when we start to express ourselves. And yet, individual self-expression is so important in terms of human rights. Because otherwise what we will do is we will perpetuate the interests of power and allow for discrimination against minorities. Think of every civil liberties movement that has happened. It is because a group was willing to self-express without apology. Think of the women's suffrage movement. That was because of women who were not afraid to express themselves, to go after their own rights. If you think about people like Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, these people expressing themselves to their fullest potential became catalyst for social change. Think of the drag queens Think of the LGBT community. Think of the Pride Parade. That's the point of the Pride Parade. Right? Normalizing something that was considered abnormal. Normalizing something and bringing joy to something that society had deemed shameful and in fact punishable through criminal law. This is why self-expression is so important. Allowing yourself to be the human that you are means you allow for other human beings to be who they were meant to be. And there is nothing more important than our humanity. There's nothing more influential than our individuality, and yet our ability to unite together to create this fabric we call society. One of the reasons Persian carpets are so sought after is because even though it is made up of individual knots, the tapestry itself is so full of color and patterns and different things that are coming together. It is so busy and yet so cohesive. That's what a society is supposed to be like. And every single one of us is a knot in that beautiful tapestry. If we were all exactly the same knot and the same color, we would have the synthetically manufactured carpet. It's not a Persian carpet anymore. And what we want out of our societies is not to be homogenous. It's not to be exactly the same thing all over. We want diversity. We want people to be different. We want people to challenge of our perspectives. We want different people's mere existence to be the kind of light that allows us to reflect on ourselves. If we all live in echo chambers where everybody is exactly like us and acts like us and thinks like us, there is no room to grow. So we want that challenge. We want that difference. We want those different expressions. And so the more we want other people to have different expressions, the more we need to allow ourselves to express differently. Again, you will not allow the other that which you will not allow yourself to do. So if we want to change society, it's not about changing other people. It's about changing ourselves. It's about bringing our tolerance for acceptance higher, for more people, for more varied perspectives, for more things we don't understand. Just accepting things we don't understand. Okay? Now, once you have resolved this with yourself, once you have brought peace to yourself, once you have brought love to yourself, what we're going to do is we're going to open this up. Okay? The point is this tangled bit of energy that is you wasn't tangled by itself and wasn't all tangled by you. It was tangled also by other people. And in order for you to detangle it and untangle it, you also need the energies of other people. You need the energy of society. And that's what we're going to bring in next. So what we're going to do is we're going to use all of the sharp edges or the protruding edges of our own self-expression first as guides for where we're going to bring energy into this thing. Okay? So for example, these edges, these protruding edges, are the places I'm going to use first in order to bring these lines that bring energy in and out of my self-expression. And don't worry about going back into your composition. The idea is we also want to bring in more people, more perspectives that we can learn from. We want to bring in more voices into our head that now influence us in a positive manner, as opposed to the way that we were restricted before. The beliefs that were put into us before, we want to now have new voices that challenge them. We want to upgrade our software. And the way that we do this is by increasing our exposure to the field of information, to the ever-present field of information that is out there. Physics teaches us that all the information that you need in order to do anything in this world is perpetually available in the universe. Right? They say that information is the one thing that even black holes cannot destroy. The information, all the information contained in what the black hole is sucking in gets reflected back onto its surface. That's not my voice, my theory. That's Stephen Hawking's. He was slightly smarter than me, so I tend to believe what he says. So all the information we need in the world in order for us to live our best life is perpetually available. Kind of like the internet. The information on the internet is perpetually available all the time. All you need to access it is to take this computer of yours called the brain and to focus on it. The same way you do when you go into Google and search for something. You're focusing the energy of this computer and asking for it to get all of that data. Now the computer brings all of that data, takes it into the CPU, into the computer itself, and then shows you an image on the computer that you can navigate, that has text, images, sound, video, so on and so forth. Exactly like your reality. Right? Our brain is a computer. The more we focus on the things that we want, the more the universe brings us interactions and information of the people and the things that will inform us, that will give us allow us to experience that in our physical life. So by creating all of these lines now, we're creating not only letting go of what was that no longer serves, but also calling in all of those people and all of those energies that can make us have a different understanding and experience. We are welcoming new energies into this process, right? So when we introduce new things, we always want to make sure that with the intersection between what was and what will be, or what is new and what had momentum, is done with ease and grace. So that's why we're going to round all of these and connect all of these new lines. We want it to be a smooth entry. We want to introduce these new energies into the mix, but we don't want this introduction to be jarring, right? Life will teach us the lessons we are meant to learn. If we resist learning them, it teaches us in manners we can't escape. You know, all of a sudden it becomes a cancer scare, or something really serious in life that requires a lot of effort. Sometimes life brings us to points of no return to make its point. If we learn to learn the lessons before it gets that hard, then we have learned to do it with ease and grace. And that's what we're calling in by rounding and connecting all of these lines we have introduced. We want new energy. We don't want to just be trapped in the things of the past. You know, romanticizing the past has never worked well for anybody. The past was never as great as we remember it. And if we are romanticizing the past, we are disempowering ourselves in terms of creating the ideal future we want to live. And that's a disservice to a magical being like yourself, who was here to create new things to begin with, not to perpetuate what was. This universe doesn't like redundancies. It never does the same thing twice. You were created on this plane, on this earth, in this dimension, in this intersection of space-time, in order for you to be unapologetically you and to bring your own unique perspective into the world. Now, ask yourself, instead of who didn't allow you to do that, and instead of going down that rabbit hole, think of all of the ways and the people who can help you do exactly that. You're a lot more resourceful than you think. There is a very famous poem by a mid-century poet named Hafiz in Iran, who is very well revered. Rumi is probably better known than Hafiz, but Hafiz is also very well known. And one of the poems that he has says, "There's nothing that is hidden between the lover and the beloved. Hafiz, you are your own veil. Get up from the middle." میان عاشق و معشوق هیچ حائل نیست. حافظ تو خود حجاب خودی از میان برخیز. You are your own greatest limit. The higher version of you, the highest self, your highest self, or higher self, because there is no such thing as a highest self. Your higher self, your observer, knows exactly what you are capable of becoming. And there's a part of you subconsciously that really knows and believes that. The conscious part of you, the veil that you wear, doesn't usually allow yourself to achieve everything you're capable of. The universe knows what you're capable of. You subconsciously know what you're capable of. If you remove the veil, nothing will stop you from being the most magnificent you. It is so empowering to recognize that we are choosing to wear a mask. Just becoming aware of the fact that we are choosing to wear a mask is empowering, not even doing anything with it. I mean, eventually, many of us get to the point of losing our patience with the masks and looking to live more authentically, but some of us don't. But just recognizing that there is a mask and there is a veil, and that we choose to put it there, we choose to keep it there, is highly empowering. because it then brings about the choice of, hey, I can choose not to wear the mask. But if you're not even aware that you're wearing a mask, if you just believe this is who you really are, this is all you were meant to be, this is all you were meant to experience in this life, then you're fully disempowered. You don't even have a choice. Knowledge is key. Knowledge is power. This is why Maya Angelou says when we know better, we do better. Because first you need to know there's a mask, to know there's the option of removing the mask. And it won't be easy living life after removing the mask. I don't know how many people remember or have seen the movie with the boy in the iron mask. I think Leonardo DiCaprio was in that movie. Right? He knew he was wearing an iron mask. And when they removed it from him, it took him a long time to learn to eat again and drink again and use his lips properly, because his lips now had a different depth than what he had become used to with the mask on his face. The same happens in our life. The first step is recognizing there is a mask. The second step is to choose to take off the mask, which is sometimes difficult. You know, it's if we've used the mask long enough, parts of it has fused into who we've become and how we identify ourselves. So removing it can actually be a really painful process. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's not all, you know, rainbows and sunshines and butterfly. Self-healing is a really, really difficult process. And it's not linear. So removing the mask is not always, not as pleasant as it sounds. And once you remove the mask, then you deal with the repercussions of it, which is now getting acquainted, or getting reacquainted with the world, and allowing the world to get reacquainted with you, and regaining a new equilibrium and a new balance. And this happens a lot. A lot of people, when they begin to go through a spiritual growth, especially a lot of people pleasers who begin to start setting boundaries, actually find themselves more isolated in the beginning. And things get a little bit worse. They find themselves more rejected in the beginning, because all of the people who were used to behaving a certain way around you now can't get away with that same old behavior, so they shun you. Because they're not getting the benefits they used to get from you anymore. And since that relationship was conditional, and it wasn't out of unconditional love, the relationship becomes strained or terminated. And then that leaves the person who was trying to save that relationship even more isolated and feeling more like, what is wrong with me? Why aren't I lovable? But the point isn't that you are not lovable. The point was never you. The point was never how you were flawed. The point was the mask you were wearing to keep something that wasn't meant for you in your life. So their removal is actually a good thing. But it's painful, because a lot of us have emotionally attached to these things and these people and these circumstances that we have, and disrupting it is not pleasant. A lot of the time, these things, the spiritual path and growth and healing and all of that is made to sound like such a pleasant experience, and just like a walk down the meadow, and it's going to be sunshines and rainbows and butterflies, but it's not. healing is really like performing open heart surgery. Except there is no surgeon other than you. You are the one cutting yourself open. You are the one bringing yourself and your awareness to places that hurt you. And you are the surgeon. You are the only one who can fix things. You are the only one who knows how your psyche works. And your psyche is incredibly resilient. But there is no anesthesia. There is no somebody outside of you who can do this for you. You are the only one who can do it for yourself. And it's painful. And the healing process after takes time. It's not instantaneous. But boy, is it ever worth it. Because once you've done that, once you've healed yourself enough to allow yourself to be yourself, then you get to co-create the kind of life that you want to experience in this world. Then you become truly magic. Then you can manifest anything you want, not from a place of want, from a place of desire, but from a place of purpose. And that's when you become unstoppable. And that's when you become embodied spirit. In Vedic ideology, where these chakras are from, most monks believe that majority of people will never make it past their sacral chakra. They believe majority of people will not even rise to, meaning they won't find enough sense of security within themselves in the root chakra to allow their energy to accumulate to the sacral chakra in a place of self-expression. But that they don't even get to many people don't leave self-expression long enough to get to sustaining it. They don't co-create with the universe long enough to allow themselves to get to the place of now I sustain my creation. Because we don't allow ourselves to express. So if we barely scratch the surface of the energies of this chakra, it's not surprising that we don't rise beyond it. And then what I find really interesting is all of this, these meditations and talks and emphasis on opening the third eye and open your third eye and understand and see behind the veil. It's like, whoa, wait a second. Before we can open up anything here, we need to work on the energies of the chakras beneath it. If I can't even see myself, if I can't even love myself, if I can't even express myself, what veil am I seeing beyond? I can't even lift my own veil. I can't even acknowledge the fact that I have a veil, that a veil was put on me before I even recognized who I was. This is what Ram Dass calls somebody training. From the moment you came onto this world with great intentions, you were put into somebody training. You were taught a language, you were taught customs of a culture, you were put into school, you were taught how to learn to be a certain profession and have a certain purpose in life. You were put into somebody training before you even knew you were nobody. The point of self-expression, of complete self-expression, is to be able to say, hey, I'm nobody. I'm just energy in transit. I'm just consciousness taking a joyride through me for a quick minute. and having the courage to live that, to be the expression of the divine just as it intended it for you to be. And if we can't even do that, how are we supposed to see beyond the veil of creation and of this physical existence if we can't even have the courage to look at ourselves? So I understand why Vedic ideology says a lot of us don't even get past this chakra. A lot of us have a hard time building and creating healthy boundaries. This is why we live in a society of narcissists / people pleasers. Both sides don't know how to set and honor boundaries. Both set are incredibly insecure. People pleaser and narcissists are two sides of the same coin, except they're both trauma responses, except one decides in terms of the narcissist, I will never allow anyone else to do this to me again. I'm going to be completely closed and care only about myself so that I'm never hurt again. The people pleaser says, I'm never going to allow anybody to do this to me again. I'm going to be so open that I will never make it necessary for someone to act like this again. They're both coming out of insecurity. There's two sides of the same coin. And that's the majority of the societies we're living in right now. That's why working with the root chakra is so important before we come to creation and creating this self-image. You have to love yourself and accept yourself first before you can become unapologetically yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, then you're looking for the external validation of society. And if society is telling you who you are not expressing yourself. You're perpetuating the norms of the society. You're doing what is expected of you, and therefore you will probably have a relatively tension-free existence. But if you decide to be unapologetically you, then you got to be ready for some tension. You got to be ready for parts of society to say, hey, I don't accept you. I don't like what you're doing because the light you're shining on me makes me feel uncomfortable about the parts of me I haven't healed. And so stop that. I don't like this light. Stop shining. Stop being yourself. And if you listen to that voice, then you still have some work to do with your root chakra. Part of learning to express yourself is bringing forgiveness, is allowing yourself to have forgiveness for yourself and for other people, especially when they behave in ways you don't expect or understand. Forgiveness means I don't need to control you. You get to be who you are and how you are. And that doesn't get to affect how I am, who I am, and how I experience myself. Okay? Now, once you have created some of these lines that bring energy in to and out of your work, the next thing that you want to do is bring in frequency. So we want to start coloring this composition. Again, I'm going to do this monochromatic, but you don't have to. Because this is the sacral chakra, I'm going to try to keep it to my orange tones. And so when it comes to coloring, this part is the part that is intuitive, right? So we want to color 2 or more sections at the same time. And you just want to bring this overall flow. So when we are coloring, we are going to ignore the boundaries between the sections that we are coloring. Okay, because frequency can actually penetrate solid objects and boundaries that we see. So when we are coloring, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to allow for that frequency to penetrate. once you feel like you have enough of your work colored, you are all done with your release. Now, what I want you to notice at the very end is that even though you started with some really, really heavy thoughts and feelings in the beginning, the final work that you have is going to look pretty light and airy. So all of those things that have brought you pain in the past, all of the things that have left some kind of an impression, in the end are leading to something beautiful that only you can experience. So with that, this is the end of our session on releasing blockages. Do this as many times as you like, and I will see you in a couple of days for the next installment, which is the ability to actually program what we want to see moving forward when it comes to our self-expression. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to digest this information, and then we will be back on Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time to move forward to the next step and to create, in terms of self-expression, that which we want to see. If you were with me live during this session, thank you so much. If you are seeing this after the fact, and if you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments for me, and I will respond to your questions as soon as I can. Other than that, thank you for joining me. Have a lovely rest of your day and your week, and I will see you again soon. Ciao for now, everybody.